Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 14014 Southeast Main Street here in Portland, located straight out from the front door. I describe everything as if you're in the street facing the front of the house. So, got a 4-inch ABS clean out. I was just trying to flesh things out here. We're checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Dropping into a 4-inch ABS clean out. So, I am going to leave the water status as it is right now. I've had the kitchen sink running for minutes, 3, 4, 5 minutes now probably. And when I dropped in there a moment ago, 0 water was going to the pipe. The water you see right now, just to make sure I wasn't dropping into a storm system, I went and flushed the toilet. The toilet in the hallway that's closest to the front door, not the one next to the laundry machines. Anyway, flushed that toilet, and that's where that water came from just now. So from the looks of it, I have no other water running. I'll go make sure the home inspector doesn't turn anything on here to confuse us. But right now it looks like the kitchen sink is either connected to something else and or is leaking. Just went through some standing water there prior to the transition. We'll revisit that in a moment. Swapping over here to 3034 PVC. Where that belly's positioned at, that far away from the home, in big giant 4-inch ABS pipe, not the kind of belly I'm concerned about. It's too small and too far away from the home to cause problems, for the exception of consistent abusive scenarios. If you're putting a lot of improper stuff down the line on a consistent basis, that's about the only time you would ever be able to develop enough buildup. You need a pretty substantial blockage to back up from 45 feet, especially in this diameter of pipe and smooth plastic pipe walls. Essentially what you need is balls of, balled up wipes, paper towels, balled up flushable wipes, often in conjunction with grease buildup, stuff like that, to actually get to a point where that could even happen. Under normal circumstances, it would be very hard to accomplish. So anyway, we're gonna go locate here really quick while the line drains out. Looks like we tied directly into the manhole out in the street, and we'll pull back here. And as it sits right now, that's a natural state look at the line there, essentially. There's no water running through the line here. There's just a little bit of a trickle. When you put your ear to the clean out, you can't hear any water running. So that water you saw moving there is a little tiny belly at the end of the sewer line. I was just sloshing some water around. So that kitchen sink is still running. It has been this entire time, and minutes before I even started the camera up. So that's something to look into. I'm not sure if it's, and the home inspector will check for leaks when he's down in the crawl space. But it wouldn't be the first time I've seen this part of town used to have a lot of septic or cesspools. I've seen a fair amount over the years where when they were converted from cesspool to city sewer, especially if that kitchen line had an independent line that dove underground where you couldn't see it, sometimes they tie into the sewer line at a point where you can't see it at all when you're doing that update. I've had them still connected to an old septic system before. I've seen them hooked up to storm systems, dry wells, lots of different situations. Not all of them are bad either. It's hard to know with the time I've got here exactly what it's doing. So that's something to look into. You might need to have a plumber out to come assess where that line's routed to. Alrighty. So there's a manhole. It's kind of on the farther side of the street. As the line makes its way out to the road, it veers through the front yard to get there. So the line starts to head towards the left side of the property, not towards the right side, just so you can kind of visualize which direction it's going. Makes its way out that way. And actually, it comes into that manhole at a pretty hard angle, almost like the pipe. I should say, kind of visually speaking, that's what you would imagine the line would do, where you see where it terminates. The angle the line actually hits that manhole at is a hard, like 45-degree angle into the manhole. And I know there is something newer on the scene with Portland these days as it relates to how the lines, and something you may want to check with the city. I know that they do not like lines now. It's either crossing the curb at anything other than 90 degrees to the curb, so basically going straight across it. It's that, or it's as it attaches to the main, it needs to be 90 degrees to the main. And Off the top of my head, I cannot remember, but the way that line cuts into that main there, it does it at a pretty hard angle, as if the line's coming from the driveway over to the manhole. And when you see where they're positioned at, it'll kind of make more sense. Anyway, the angle it's coming to that manhole may not matter at all. I believe what I'm referring to is how the line crosses the curb. I believe the city wants them to go straight across them now. So, anyway, realistically, I don't think that's going to be a big deal for you. As once you're into the roadway, you're in city responsibility. All right, so the line does exactly that. It runs. So where we're sitting right now is just to the left of the driveway, kind of in the gravel curb strip area where you would normally have a sidewalk. So the line runs up adjacent to the driveway. And then once it gets just past the front of the driveway, it's right here where it makes that turn and shoots off into the road. So, you know, it's something you may want to run past the city. See if they have any big issues with that. And being that you don't have a traditional curb and everything here, it may not. Not sure how they look at these things. Anyway, the belly here runs from about 38 feet. The line's fully drained at this point. Your water line here is just barely over the top of my camera lens. There's about an inch of water. So from about 38 to about 43 feet here. And so my typical breaking point, something I developed about 10 years ago, where I start to consider a recommendation for a repair on bellies is once there's a 5-foot section with at least an inch of water in it. Now, back in the day, before we had studied sewer lines, and before I'd done, you know, at this point I've done almost 25,000 scopes, lots of drain cleaning, repairs, you name it. I used to hammer down those a little bit more. As time has gone on, about the only time I'm recommending a repair on a belly like this one, 5 feet long at minimum with an inch of water, with no water running, is generally speaking when the belly is under the home or very close proximity, and typically speaking either in smaller diameter pipe that's more prone to blocking, but mostly in older pipe materials like cast iron and concrete, where you get the coupling effect of the water slowing things down to an extent, but also very rough pipe walls that snag onto that debris. And that combination is a completely different animal than what you've got here. These smooth plastic pipe walls mitigate a lot of buildup, for the exception of improper items, and even those scoot through this stuff a lot easier than older materials by a long shot. So, you know, as it sits right now, the main concern on this thing is just what the kitchen line's doing. The belly there is too minor and too far from the home, in my opinion, to require repairs. There's zero buildup, no blockage evidence, and I really would not expect to see that from a belly like that far out from the house. Anyway, about the only situation, you know, this is a line that's been here a while. You know, again, not a belly I would expect to see major buildup, not unless I could tell the line was being abused. You know, lots of cooking oil and grease going down the pipe, which will build up anywhere, any part of the sewer line, belly or not. But grease does like to concentrate in standing water. So that, or a house that was putting a lot of wipes and junk down the line. One that Alright, and I apologize, my supplier sent me the wrong color of paint. I'm using kind of a burnt red brick color paint. It's right in front of the for sale sign. You'll see two arrows, one that's running straight away from the house, the other one that cuts away at kind of a 45-degree angle. You'll see the arrows there, and those point, eventually they point straight to the manhole on the other side of the road. So anyway, that's something to potentially look into there. The line does not cross at 90 degrees. It looks like it's crossing at an angle. So beyond that, the belly, again, too minor in my opinion to need repairs. I can't even recommend you drain clean it for a couple $100. So not one I'm going to go recommend you rip stuff open over. You know, and certainly not, especially if there's some issue with the angle that's running at. You wouldn't want to go fixing that and find out later you got to straighten the line out anyway. So main concern here is what the kitchen sink is doing. Other than that, we have good flow of the main lateral. It's very, very clean sewer line. Sewer line's functioning properly at this time. And all the pipe here is in good condition and intact. Nothing's broken or anything like that.